Hey, hey, hey. Time for another out-of-this-world story from rSpace. Found out my long-term partner was unfaithful through a shared music playlist, so I hired an attorney who can make her disappear. The eyes, Chico, they never lie. Today on rSpace, if your wife is making goo-goo eyes with someone else, chances are they aren't just friends. I, 47 male, have been married to my wife, 47 female, for nearly 15 years. We've been regulars at this tiny family-owned pub down the street from our place called Brado's for the last 8 or so years. We go there every Wednesday for wings, Fridays to watch the game, and Sunday because they serve a wicked brunch for just $10. We know everyone by name, and we know the details of each other's lives. We live pretty far away from family, and my wife has been sort of estranged from hers for quite some time, so these people are like family to us. During lockdown, the place almost didn't make it, but somehow pulled through. When I lost my job, they hired me even though it was hard for them financially, and I helped make pizzas and deliver food for a short period of time until I landed back on my feet. They literally saved us with the shirts off their backs. About 4 months ago, there was this new guy that started and he became their new server. I'd catch him giving eyes to my wife, and if I'd go to the bathroom, he'd somehow find his way back to our table when I wasn't there, even though he wasn't assigned to our table, and I could see him trying to flirt with her. I'd crack jokes with my wife and tell her that this guy was obviously flirting with her, and she'd laugh it off and say that she was old enough to be his mother, or things like, I don't even notice. After a while, I noticed that he'd bring her drinks that I'd never seen her drink before. She'd say, "Oh, I love this," or something like that, and he would say a little comment like, "I know," or "I remember," and I'm sitting there like, what? I'd be like, how did he know that? And she always said something like, oh, he must be good at reading people. Then one night, she starts playing this song, and I'm like, oh, I like this song. And she goes, isn't it good? Patrick sent it to me. And I'm like, who's Patrick? And she says, that's the guy that works at the Brado's. I'm like, how did he get your number? And she tells me that he doesn't have her number. He heard her singing along to a song one time and said that he had some music recommendations that he wanted to send her, so they added each other on Instagram. This instantly rubbed me the wrong way, and I could tell that she knew I wasn't happy about it. Then she tells me that he makes music in his little indie band, and he wanted her to hear what he had because she mentioned she was in the business. To be fair, my wife is in the music business. She does music licensing for commercials. It's not the most glamorous job, but she loves it. She works with a lot of independent bands and musicians, helping them get their music features in commercials or for bands or products. When she explained this, I tried to let it slide and understood that maybe she was just networking, but it still didn't sit right with me. One Wednesday night, as per usual, we went to Brado's for wings. Patrick was working. He was all smiles and charms towards my wife, and he was nice enough to me. I couldn't help but say something. I went and asked her if she heard any more of Patrick's music. She goes and says that she has, and says that he's pretty talented, and she's been thinking about pitching one of his songs to a client. I'm not going to lie, I felt jealous. I asked her if she thought it was professional to be so friendly with him. That's when she rolled her eyes and said that she's just trying to find new talent and that I should understand because I used to be that kid who was chasing the dream. She's like, why can't I help him out? She said that if I were him, I'd want someone to help me out. Before I go any further, I'm just going to stop and give some background info before I forget. My wife and I first met at a music festival years ago. I was a bass player in a band that had opened up for someone who was headlining at the time. When we were done with our set, my wife came up to us and asked me to sign our CD that we had been selling. Shortly after that, my wife followed me to London and toured with us. We had a really great manager at the time who managed to land us some gigs around England and Scotland. We ended up coming back and both going to school. She went in for audio engineering and I went for music therapy. I work at a continuing care facility and volunteer at a children's hospital. Back to it. There was a part of me that saw how she was looking at Patrick like she used to look at me. There was just this twinkle in her eyes that made me sick. I told her that I didn't want to be the jealous husband, but that the whole thing with Patrick was bothering me. I didn't like how much they talked. I didn't like these secret inside jokes they had. I told her that it felt like he was overstepping, and that I didn't like it. Then she gets up from the table and she tells me that I'm being pathetic and unreasonable. She says she can't believe that a 40-some-year-old man is jealous of some punk kid. I end up eating the rest of my wings alone. I come home later that night and she's crying in the bedroom and she tells me that she's sorry. She says that if Patrick bothers me that much, she won't go forward with helping him and come up with some excuse and she'll unfollow him. She's like, I don't know how we're going to avoid him at Brado's though. And I just tell her that maybe he'll get the hint once she tells him whatever she does about not using his music. Maybe he's just trying to suck up to you because he thinks you can make it famous. She tells me that she makes up some excuse and then cuts him off and tells him that he thinks he got the wrong idea with her. We then mutually decide to avoid Brados for a few weeks just to let things cool down and for this kid to get the hint. Pretty soon after that, she tells me that her and her girlfriends are starting up this pottery class in the evenings, once a week for 6 weeks. I'm like, cool. I know that's something she's been meaning to try, so I told her to go for it. I go out for a run one evening and she's leaving for class, and when I come back, I realize that I forgot to bring my set out house keys with me, and I'm locked out of the house. Then I remember I gave the owners a set of house keys one time in case this ever happened. So I walk down to Brados and tell Phyllis, one of the owners, that I've locked myself out. She looks so happy to see me and hugs me, even though I'm a sweaty mess. She tells me that it's been too long and asks me why I haven't been around. I had to come up with some quick thinking for an excuse, even though I hate the fact that I have to lie to her. I can't be like, oh, I don't trust Patrick with my wife, so we're avoiding you guys now, and I wish you'd fire his butt. Instead of all that, I'm like, oh, my wife and I are cutting back on eating out and trying to be healthier. She looks at me confused. She's like, oh, but I still see your wife. She pops in for lunch, and I've seen her here for dinner at least once a week in the last few weeks. I look confused, and then I start looking around to see if Patrick is working. Then I ask Phyllis if Patrick is working tonight, and she said that he has Tuesdays off. Conveniently, Tuesdays are the same days that my wife told me she has her pottery classes. Then I try to crack a joke and tell Phyllis that apparently I'm the only one sticking to our healthier New Year's resolution. I try to smile and say that my wife just can't get enough of your food, Phyllis. She gives me a half smile, and she asks me if everything's okay, to which I try to grin and pretend that it's all good in the hood. But inside, the alarms are going off, and I'm pretty sure I know exactly what's going on, and I'm almost certain Phyllis can read it on my face. I ask Phyllis for the keys, and I head back home. Once I get back, I start creeping on Instagram. Turns out my wife did unfollow him. That checks out. He wasn't following her either. I'm creeping his page, and I don't see that my wife liked any recent photos of his or anything and vice versa. I'm trying to shake it off, thinking how I'm going to confront her about this. I decide to go on Spotify and just listen to some music to calm down and maybe play on my guitar. I somehow end up on my wife's Spotify profile, and I'm looking for a song she recommended to me once when I found out that I can see her followers and who she's following. So then I click into her followers and see a guy named Patrick is following her. I click into his account, and sure as crap, it's his face for his profile picture. It's for sure the Patrick that I wished it hadn't been. I click into his account and see a public playlist that literally says, Sneaky Link Bedroom Playlist, and my wife has liked and saved the playlist. I go through his other playlists and see that she hasn't liked any other one that he's curated. I end up going back to Brados immediately after this and ask Phyllis if my wife has been meeting up with anybody when she comes in for lunch or dinner. She tells me that she comes alone, but that she spends a lot of time talking to Patrick. I thank her, and again she asks me if everything is okay. And now I'm like, I really don't know. Then she leans in and she's like, if I'm being honest, their interactions don't look all that innocent. Edit. She's told me she's been going out for dinner with some girlfriends, but she must be going to Brados instead, obviously. As for the lunches, I guess she must have been going to lunch at Brados on her work breaks. It's about a 7-minute drive from her office to Brados. When she comes home that evening, I ask her how her class went. She says it went great, and that they're learning how to make mugs. I ask her where it is again, and she tells me the location. She goes to wash up, and I go on my phone to check online to see if I can actually find any evidence of this being in classes on Tuesdays. From what I can see, there isn't, but I email the owner of the facility just to make sure. Surprisingly, I get a response within 20 minutes, and she confirms that she doesn't have any classes going on right now, but she will next month. So now I'm just sitting out in the living room pretending to watch a show, writing this on my phone, and she's sleeping in bed, or so she said. Help me out, guys. I don't really know how to feel. I'm angry. I feel a bit numb. I feel played. How did I get here? I never thought she'd ever cheat on me. Edit. Some of you have been asking how old Patrick is. My guess is his mid-late 20s. Ah, Brados. Always bringing people together. Where the food is good, but the infidelity is killer. Seems like your wife is living in the past and looking for OP 2.0. Sorry to say, OP, but you got here because your wife has wandering eyes and she digs cheap, egotistical indie artists who think every song they make is a hit. And her life choices have me seriously considering whether she actually has good taste in music, especially that playlist. But pottery class does sound fun, if only it were actually pottery class. In all seriousness, I'm sorry I went down this way, OP. Update 1. Okay, back with a quick update. It's been 5 days since my original post. I've had to play it off like I don't know anything. I did take a day off to confirm that I saw her car out front of Brados for lunch, so that was fun. But anyways, since finding out everything, I tried to think of a way that I would confront her on all that I knew. Last night I ran a bath for her and poured her a glass of wine. While she was in the bath, I connected my phone to one of our speakers in the bedroom and started playing the Sneaky Link playlist of hers. I wanted to see how long it would take for her to catch on to this playlist once she got out of the tub. Not too long after she got out, I started rubbing her feet as we were laying in bed, and she's humming to the music, and then suddenly she stops and looks at me and asks me what music I'm playing. I tell her it's this new playlist that I found recently. I ask her if she's ever heard of some of the songs on it before. Then she pulls her feet away from me, and she looks at me and asks me what the playlist is called. I look at my phone and pretend to act all innocent and say the name. There's silence between us until I tell her that I dropped in to see Phyllis this past week after my run because I forgot my house keys. She's like, "Oh yeah?" And then I tell her that Phyllis has said that she sees her at Brado's often. And she's like, "Yeah, I've been meaning to tell you. I go in just to see them. I just miss them, you know?" And I'm like, "Yeah, me too." And then I give her a chance to tell me the truth and I say, "Do you want a chance to tell me what's really going on?" She's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Don't play stupid." Then I tell her that I took Friday off. I said I left the house pretending to go to work, but I just parked around the corner until I knew you were gone. Then I came back home. I told her that around lunchtime, I went to see if her car could be parked out front of Brado's, and it was. Then she goes, "Okay, so you have a playlist, and you saw me having lunch at Brado's." She's like, "What does that prove?" And then I tell her to come clean. I tell her that she's not actually going to pottery class because I contacted the business she's claiming is holding the classes, and they don't have classes until next month. I also told her that Phyllis said that Patrick has Tuesdays off of work. I'm like, "Is that just a coincidence?" She gets up from bed and she calls me a sick bastard for following her around and making up all of these lies just because I'm jealous of some boy. She packs a bag and tells me that she needs some space for me and tells me to leave her alone for a couple of days. I'm like, "Are we really doing this? I've been connecting the dots and all the signs are pointing to you cheating on me with some wannabe Dallas Green." Then she pulls the "You're just jealous, he's more talented than you and he's going places" card. Then I go real low and tell her that dating a juvenile isn't going to turn back her clock. She throws a brush at me and leaves, and I'm not sure where she's staying, but that's the update for now. Ah yes, there's nothing like some gaslighting to get the party started. Love what you did with the playlist, by the way, and the fact that it took her a bit to catch on. Clearly it wasn't that good of a playlist, if you know what I mean. Update 2. It's been a couple of days since the last update. Turns out she left to go and stay with him, and turns out he lives in his parents' basement suite. So that's hilarious. I guess Patrick was spilling the beans to Phyllis's granddaughter who works there occasionally, not realizing that we're all basically family. He told her that my ex left me because I was jealous and apparently controlling, and that she's crashing at his place, and that they've been having wild, unhinged sex, and it's the best he's ever had. Why he wanted to tell her this, I don't know. Maybe to make her jealous? Maybe he's just stupid. I'm betting on the latter. Anyway, Phyllis's granddaughter told Phyllis this, who of course came over bringing me dinner to tell me all of the news and to feed me because she assumed I wasn't doing well. Honestly, I wasn't surprised. It wasn't what I wanted to hear, but it just confirmed what I already knew. Thank God for Phyllis and Brad. Literally amazing, beautiful creatures. I don't know where I'd be without them. After I found that out, I went to change the locks and change the garage door passcode. I told her that she's not welcome back and she can start over with Mr. Brady Bunch. She ends up telling me that she has in fact been going to Brado's without me just to meet up with Patrick and talk future plans for his music. She admitted that she has slept with him, but that she only started sleeping with him after she packed up some of her stuff for some space. And the only reason she slept with him is because she's under the impression that we're separated? Not sure where she got that from. I never used the word separation. I never asked for separation. I just asked her to tell me the truth about what was going on. But if that's where she's at in her mind, then that's where I'm heading. I can play that game too. I told Phyllis everything, and she said she had a hunch, but didn't want to get in the middle of it or stir the pot. I told her it was okay. I said I would have done the same exact thing. She gave me a number for a cousin of theirs who's an attorney and helps with this sort of thing. Feels very much like Goodfellas. I had to tell Phyllis that as mad as I am, I don't want my ex dropping off the face of the earth, if you know what I mean. She laughed and said that he's not that kind of cousin, unless I want him to be. Separated, huh? Yeah, I definitely don't remember reading that anywhere either. And oh, thank goodness for Phyllis. What a gem. Update 4. Just another quick update. A mutual friend of ours who works with my ex told me that she did try to hook little Patty up with a little gig, but it fell through because her higher-ups thought he was trash. When he went in to meet people and to audition, he He acted like he should have had the full star-studded treatment. He was asking for coffees and was expecting to be waited on hand and foot. Had all these outlandish requests. Her higher-ups really weren't impressed with his music at all. They found it amateurish and not up to standards. The real kicker was this kid's behavior during the meeting. Instead of being grateful for the opportunity, I guess he walked in there like he was already a rock star. Apparently, he's been blacklisted. I mean, the industry is a big one, but if you piss off enough of the right people, they'll make sure everyone hears about you for all the wrong reasons. Not only that, but my ex is dealing with the fallout of being associated with someone like him. When my ex came over to pick up some things, she confirmed she had been living with him until they turned him down and didn't give him his shot at stardom that she had apparently promised, and then he kicked her out, so yeah, he was only in it for one thing. I don't know who he thought my ex was, but she wasn't someone who could make him famous through a commercial. That's for dang sure. She also confirmed that when she thought we were separated wasn't the first time they had sex, but they've been having sex shortly before I told her that I wasn't okay with the whole Patrick thing. She said she'd come over for lunch and they'd have a quickie in his car and go back to the house and screw on our couch. She admitted to falling for him because she said his voice was effable and she felt like I was washed up and lost my aspiration for anything and felt like whenever we were having sex, she felt like she was having sex with an old man. Yeah, ouch. I'm not even sure where she's staying now, but Phyllis said she tried to ask for a room to stay with her, but she said that there wasn't one available. Way to go, Phyllis. Old Patty, I guess, also stopped showing up for his shifts at Brado's. I creeped his Instagram, and he's been posting all woe is me crap. On another note, during all this, I ended up speaking to Phyllis's cousin who hooked me up with one of his lawyer friends and started the whole divorce process. And that's exactly what it is, a process. But it's time for me to move forward and focus on rebuilding my life and thanking my sweet stars for people like Phyllis and Brad. Like I've said before, without them, I don't know where I'd be. Still being someone's fool, maybe. But I'll keep the sad song writing to kids like Patty. Well, thank God for that. Another indie star that we never knew we didn't need. Here's to not being anybody's fool. Cheers, OP. Do you know a Patrick? Share your stories with us in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today on rSpace. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. See you next time.